Hello?
Hey Jay, is that you?
Yeah, bud. Going
Hey
on, man?
man, how you doing?
Good, good, good.
Hey, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat.
Yeah, for sure, man.
All right,
No
so
problem.
for my listeners, this is the one and only, the man, DJ Capital J. Before I get into this, I gotta say you were my first tape. My first introduction to jungle drum and bass was a tape with your name on it, and I'm sure I'm one of many. I'm sure I'm not the first to have told you that, but
Right on.
so thank
You
you for
remember which one it was?
what it was called. No, it was just a random mix. I remember, and I can't even identify the songs. I remember the sound. Like when I close my eyes, I can hear it. Um,
Yeah.
but I remember it was like and it's a classic drum and bass song. If I played it, people would call me an idiot for not knowing the name of it. But it's just this. It wasn't a long tape. It was probably 23 minutes long.
Yeah.
But it gave me my first taste of jungle music, and it was a very
Nice.
jazzy kind of liquidy sound. It wasn't rough. It wasn't what I think of when I think of Capital J today. Um,
Right.
but anyways, with that, I want to jump into some questions here. First off, which Ninja Turtle would you say you identified most with?
Which Ninja Turtle? I would have to say, the one that ate the pizza. Which one was always eating pizza?
Well, Michelangelo was really. I think Michelangelo was the. Yes.
I'd say all of them. I identify with all of them because, I'm a man of many trades, many styles, many talents and stuff. So, I'm like the combined team of Ninja Turtles, I guess you could say.
Okay, I'll give you that. Another little one for you. How do you tie your shoe? When you tie your shoe, do you do like the two bows, or do you do the wraparound?
Well, to be honest, they're tied once I put them on in the shoe store, and that's how they stay.
I'm the same way,
Forever
man.
slip-ons. Usually, it's the guy in the store that did them up for me, and that's how they remain.
Mine end up like the big tongue flapping by 2 weeks into walking in them, so I have to always sit down and then like re-strap them down. But um,
Oh, I've never had to do that. You gotta get
um,
the guy in the shoe store to do it up. He knows what he's doing.
that's you know what, you're right. That's I got to get them to do it. Um, okay, so now let's jump into some serious questions. I want to talk about like the beginning of Capital J. Um, can you describe your first rave experience? Do you remember it?
Oh God, we're going way back here. First rave experience is like '90s, early '90s in London, Ontario. They were having raves here, and I was already playing the music and all that stuff and buying the records well before I even went to a rave. Shit, like I used to have tons of records where they're all singing about ecstasy, and the whole breakbeat hardcore and UK hip hop scene, all that stuff provided me a gateway to get into the music. So by time the whole rave era, like the music was fully expanded and in progress, I hadn't really experienced like a rave. I was still young. My older brother was the first one to take me to a rave, and I checked one out before. I think it was like a month before I actually played one, and I thought it was the weirdest thing. Like, it wasn't mostly breakbeat music. It was all like trance and techno and Rotterdam and all that stuff. And the whole vibe of the people and all that stuff, it was new to me. So it was like they kind of freaked me out and all that stuff at first, because I was just a little youngin', but when I played a month later or a week later or whatever, playing my own music and then seeing like the response to like a giant crowd to that music, it made me feel more like home and more comfortable with my surroundings and the people and all that stuff. It was just perfect. But I mean, it'd be weird to anybody just walking into a weird room and everybody's listening to weird techno and dancing funny and their eyes are all bugged out and all that stuff. It'd be kind of freaky to anybody though. Know what I'm saying?
Well, I can empathize with what you mean. I was one of those bugged out eyes when I was a youngin' in the rave scene.
Well, because the drugs were good back then.
They were, yeah. And honestly, talking to guys like yourself and other pioneers of the scene, you guys weren't necessarily on that side of the spectrum. You were the performers, and
Yeah,
um,
definitely, yeah.
so
It wasn't as like
it
participant in that stuff. I mean, I was way too young to be, It was it was, I was strictly there for the music, brought into that whole thing because of the music, but the people and the gathering and just the close knit family, like you met up with these people at these raves, and you had the time of your lives. These people took care of every single person that was under that roof, and at the end of the day, you said your goodbyes, and you never spoke to or saw these people again until you might have bumped into each other at the next rave or whatever, but most of the time you never see those people again.
Yeah, and it's actually what attracted me to our scene at first. It wasn't. I always say this. It wasn't the music. It was the people. It was the culture, the family.
Yeah.
And but okay, I want to ask you, what was it that you were spinning at first? Because we're talking before drum and bass. So what was it that you were first spinning at these raves?
Breakbeat hardcore was the title that it was given. So it was like the early stages of jungle, before the term drum and bass and all that.
Would the sound, if I played it today, would it be very similar to what we hear as drum and bass today, or was it more Rotterdam sounding? Like,
Nope, more kind of like a slower tempo, definitely, and kind of like a breaks kind of flavor to it, because everything was breakbeats and stuff like that, and kind of like you'd hear kind of influences of like happy hardcore in there because of like the synths and stuff like that. All the other influences of music today, everything just kind of branched off from that music, went in all different directions. So you kind of hear like the birth of everything.
yeah, no, and when you say that, it reminds me of it's an old Groove Rider set that I heard from a 1994 party, and somebody had given it to me as a jungle, the first jungle set, and when I played it, it reminded me of Happy Hardcore. And I was like, this isn't jungle. And they're like, yeah, man, this is DJ Groove Rider. He's jungle. I'm like, I believe this is Groove Rider, but this ain't jungle, man. Come on. Like, this is sounds like something.
Well, that's the thing with the best part about that music, like the breakdowns for all of these songs had such an uplifting breakdown, pianos and synths and girls singing and all that stuff, and that would be like your moment of ecstasy in between the song. But as soon as the beat would come in again, it'd be serious. It'd mean business, break beats and the heavy bass lines and all that stuff. And then, that's how every track was around. At the raves, they'd have like the big laser shows and stuff like that. And as soon as the breakdowns would come from like just the heavy beats pounding, everybody would take a break, they put their hands up in the lasers, and everybody would just reach for the sky for the moment. That's like when you hear the old MCs when they're saying, everybody put your hands in the air, or blow on your whistles or whatever. That's your moment to like just reach for the sky. And then as soon as the beat would kick in again, everybody would be head down, back grinding on the floor again. It was just awesome.
It was so much fun. I love listening to you talk about it. Okay, so what was it about the sound of, let's say, the drum and bass sound that as things separated, as Happy Hardcore went its way, and trance and house continued to do what they were doing, and drum and bass became more of a predominant sound, and the jungle culture grew. What was it about that scene or sound that kept you there rather than going, let's say, with breaks?
For me, I was a hardhead. I was one of those people that always liked my music more hard edge, more with a rougher kind of style to it. Anything with like b-boy influences, or just distorted bass lines, break beats, stuff like that. And growing up listening to hip hop, growing up through 80s and 90s hip hop and stuff, my family, our influence was always the more hardcore hip hop side of things. And that's why we were, like, our whole family was into the whole UK hip hop scene. And that was like the early stages of like jungle and drum and bass way back. Was just hearing like MCs just rhyming over fast tongue, over break beats and stuff. And we just watched the whole progression of that music just evolve into the whole drum bass sound. But my direction was anything that was faster, anything that was harder, anything that was grimier. That's what pulled me in. That's what kept me attracted. And I just followed it along. And then when I was producing in the studio, that's the sound that I was creating, that I was trying to imitate. I was just trying to keep everything just kind of heavy with like a b-boy influence, and like just heavy and distorted as possible.
Yeah, that's definitely capital J, and that's definitely jungle. The first big song, and you're please correct me because I know I'm going to be wrong. But the one that you did, I think it was called "Evil Streets" or something. It's got signed by Kenny Ken.
Right.
Am I right?
Well, it's not the first one. No, I had over like 50 releases before that one.
This so hold on. So that shows you this is the thing though. When that came out, obviously you were already a big name by that point. But for us, this is when I was a basement MC with my friends, and we were buying records from Play to Record, and it was the first
Right.
time we were really able to run down and grab somebody who was a local guy that we listened to, and be like, oh my God, here's a UK guy signing one of our local guys, and it meant a lot to us. Um,
Yeah.
and I
You didn't
guess
see the shelf though. I'm not sure what year that was. I remember Pallady, they had a Capital J shelf, or I don't know if it was a bin or they just put it up when I'd walk in the store or something like that. But it was like a pile of all my releases, like on Wicked Records and N2O and shoot all the other ones.
Can we talk
Yeah.
about that for a sec then, Jay? I didn't even have this in my questions. I'm going to deviate, I guess, for a second. With your releases, can you talk about your process, like from production, how you got yourself, let's say, signed to somebody, and then how you were distroed or marketed? Like, how did that work for you?
That was all the labels business there. That was part of growing up, is just dealing with these labels and watching them go rogue with your name and your music and your sound and stuff. Because being an artist, when you get signed to a label or they sign a couple tracks from you or stuff like that, you don't always have like a total say over like where it goes and how it gets there. So, like for instance, the nitrous oxide deal that I had was out of Los Angeles. So their target market was like the American drum bass scene, and their way of promoting stuff was more like a LA gangster type graffiti slash Los Angeles suburban type market, and that was like their theme behind everything in the market that they're targeting, and which is very different from say one of the UK labels where it's a complete polar opposite type thing. It's not a street. So you kind of have to sit back and just watch things just fly around, and like a lot of times you don't really agree with it, but they're putting the money into it, for the marketing and promotion. So it's what they have planned and how they think they're gonna sell the product.
I get, I get what you're saying, and I think in a simple sum up, I would say just be an artist and let everyone else worry about it, all the other stuff.
Right.
I get you. Okay, so going back to what I was gonna say, which is talking about like what I was talking about there with your release with Kenny Ken. For me, that was a big point in drum and bass for me. I thought that was a really hot scene, but because I'm so uneducated, I would say that it's a skewed view. And I want to know, what would you say in all the years was Toronto's pinnacle point? Would you say we're at it right now? Are we in a state of transition? Like, when was the pinnacle of our scene?
The pinnacle, I can't really lock it down in like exact years in between, but I'd have to say somewhere around, oh gosh, somewhere early 2000s, I think. That's when things were at its peak. I just remember, for me, myself, where I wasn't having to fly out as much out to other countries and other cities for shows and stuff. If I wasn't touring out to other places, I could stay home, and I was getting booked, double booked, triple booked, for like an excess of raves, or sometimes like either all in one weekend and sometimes all in one night. I think the most I've ever played was 4 in one night, and they were all packed. Started up playing a set at Opera House and went from there to Markham and Highway 7 to another packed party, and then from there over to Tropicana for another completely packed party, and then ended the night off at oh my god, somewhere, I can't remember the last location, but yeah, there was like 4 parties, all had drum bass performers, and some of them had like 2 rooms and stuff like that, and they were all rammed, completely rammed. And I would say that would be like probably the best Toronto ever was at that point. Nobody was was in competition. You didn't have to worry about competition because as long as you did your promotion right, and you didn't have to bring in, sweeten up the lineup by bringing in all these out-of-town headliners and high-priced DJs and all that stuff. It was all local performers, and these parties were packed. Like Toronto used to love the hell out of their local. You didn't need to overinflate your lineups with like 50, 60 friggin' top choice acts and all that stuff, and then charge like $200 at the door for a ticket in order to pay for all these people. It was still affordable back then too.
Yeah, everything was a bit more affordable, and to me that's a double-edged sword. It also means that the artists are doing so much better that they're charging that much more, so it's a little bit harder to.
I don't know. It's just a thing now, for these performers now. I mean, they get paid X amount of dollars from like one promoter, and they think that the whole world has to pay them that. But I've seen some DJs that will never be in certain towns because, as far as it's concerned to them, like they will never afford me type thing, that kind of attitude.
Oh, that's
they don't
ridiculous.
Want to scale it back for like smaller towns or places where they don't throw these high-priced parties and stuff like that, which is kind of, cutting yourself off from your audience. But
well, and
whatever.
You know what? I guess I'll sidebar this for a moment just to say, usually in a negotiation between promoter and artist, demographic is apparent. Like they want to know, well, who am I at your party? Am I your headliner or am I just a side DJ? How much are you putting into it? How many people are you expecting? What's your door? All this is usually discussed between promoter. Now, that's even done, I think, on the scale of someone like the Rolling Stones. If they know that they're not going to get the same booking fee when they do a show in Idaho versus California, or you know what I mean? Like, so that is ridiculous if we've got some prima donna DJs who don't get that.
They throw their own productions though.
You're right, but it's naive if we have DJs who are so egotistical, I guess, that are going, I'll never play Tollerton, Ohio because they can't afford what Miami, Florida can, let's say. I don't know.
Well, it all comes down to their agents now. Like most of these DJs, well, basically all of them are represented by the booking agents. And it's the booking agents that are calling the shots and setting the prices and all that stuff and all the deals.
It's true.
So I mean, that's a whole other world. I mean, I can't really speak on because I don't know other people's contracts and deals and stuff like that. So.
Who are you with these days? Who, if people wanted to book you, how would they get a hold of you?
Get a hold of me direct, really.
Yeah?
I used to roll with a few booking agencies and stuff like that, and then it just turned out I was more or less just sitting on their roster to make it look good. They weren't doing enough to actually give me bookings, but like when it came time to promote their roster, it's like, well, we have this guy and that guy and all that stuff. And then when I would talk to promoters, they're like, yeah, we tried to book you, but your agent was constantly trying to upsell the most expensive guy on their roster and tried to downplay you and stuff. So that was very insulting to hear that even though I'm on certain agencies, they're always constantly trying to upsell their most expensive guys because that's a bigger cut for everybody.
Well, there's an interesting point of politics. I don't expect you to mention any names, but that sounds like a pretty specific incident.
It happened a few times.
Really?
With a few agencies, yeah, between one Canadian agency and 3 U.S. agencies, and it leaves like a bitter taste in your mouth, like seeing how things are evolving into that now. It's you feel kind of lost. You don't know where to go from there. You don't know who to trust, who's on your side, who you can't really form a team because that's the way things are going now.
I can't. Sorry, go ahead.
That's why I just keep it solo.
Yeah, and I can't say I can empathize very well with that. I don't know what you're talking about. I've never had an agent, let alone many of them. And you would think that people who get paid on your best interest would be looking out for that. But yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, Jay. It kind of somewhat leads into my next question. I've only got a couple more here, but what's the biggest change you've noticed in the scene from when you started to where we are today?
The biggest change, well, now everything takes place in the summer. Everything's all about festival season. Before music used to be, a year-round event, and there's, everything just it was the same level of hypeness from month to month and stuff. But now everything falls in place in the summer. people are buying the tickets to the next festival a year in advance, and they're dead set on seeing every single biggest performer in the scene all at once, and then they'll do it all again. I know people that take the summer off and just hit up all various festivals all over the world, and that seems to be like the main thing now. Some cities, their clubs and their bars, they shut down for the summer because the festivals take over.
Yeah, and to be honest, I'm guilty. Like as you're describing that, I've never thought of myself as a part of a cult, if you will. But I buy my festival tickets in November that are set for the following June. I have my hotels booked in advance, and I am a festival. But I've never thought of it that's the new trend, eh? You're right. But here's the thing, I do go. Like for instance, I'm a rock festival person. I don't go to these rave festivals, but for instance, I'll go see a band if I really like them on a side because I know at the festival I'm only going to get maybe a 45-minute to an hour slot, and it's going to be all their top 10 shit. If I want to see them and really see them, I go see them on their own, right?
Right.
Do you think we still have that here in our electronic world? Like for instance, like Andy C as a one-off rather than waiting for we don't have WEMF anymore, but I don't know what the big effect. What the big one?
Andy C is the only guy you get. That's the one thing.
You're right.
They, as far as Toronto goes, they don't really. I mean, there's not too many other names that really pack a crowd anymore, and not too many promoters that take the risk of breaking in other acts, other DJs, and all that stuff in their town. They're sticking with the golden goose, and you never fail with Andy. Like Andy's like one of the greatest guys, but he's basically the only guy in some areas, some cities. Like that's the only headlining. I mean, the big drum bass big name that you get in their city is Andy C. Out of the billions of drum bass DJs there are in the world, and producers and all that stuff, you kind of really cut yourself off there. But if that's what works, he's like the main representative of drum and bass now. But you look at other scenes, they have countless numbers of acts and DJs and performers and all that stuff non-stop, like certain trap and dubstep and all that. Like their lineups are just ridiculous. But for drum and bass, it just seems like our main act list has dwindled down to like the top 3 people, and it's stuck at that.
Well, one thing I would say, and I agree with you, one thing I noticed when I first started getting into booking, and I realized that all the artists I knew were represented by a company called Urban Agency. And are you familiar with those guys, Urban Agency?
Yep, yeah, I am.
Okay, so when I started to realize that, I realized that the reason why the people I knew were because the people that were promoting them were using the same agency to get all the artists that I was listening to.
All right.
Right?
Yeah.
So when I started to discover other artists out of like northern England, let's say Manchester area, they just weren't attainable because the conduits weren't in place for me to get the things done that needed to get done to bring them over as artists. It was so almost as raw as you saying here, just call me and book through me. Because as much as I'd love to do that, and I'd probably save a little bit of money by dealing directly with you, you aren't a corporation that has all the things set up that I need, like all the paperwork and shit, to get you to where I need to get you properly. You know what I mean? And that's what makes it a little bit more difficult when you try and do it 100% independent. But it's enlightening to hear you talk about it and to remind me of why Toronto knows who they know. And like you said, there's billions of producers and DJs, yet we only know, let's say, 20, and then within that 20, there's a top 5. And there's a reason for that. They're all from a certain little area in England, and they're all represented by the same people.
Yeah, but there's a lot of them that tour. They tour like from UK to US, all over Europe and all that stuff. But there's promoters over here, they're like, well, they'll automatically assume that nobody here knows them and they're not going to make any money off of them, so why bother? They're perfectly capable. They have all the paperwork and visas and all that stuff. They put out tour announcements in all other countries. They have an agency pushing them. But a lot of promoters like to tell their cities what they like. So it's kind of difficult when you have um, certain companies dictating the scene for them, instead of letting the crowd speak.
Yeah, no, I get you. I guess, and a lot of promoters don't necessarily have an ear to the ground for what the crowd wants. They are doing what they want, and then the crowd can come. It's,
Right.
you know,
Which I don't blame them. Like, if I was putting up that much money, I'd be calling all the damn shots. I wouldn't give a damn who wants to see what, Like, as long as I'm footing the bill, this is what's happening.
I get you. I get you. Okay, I got two more for you. What's going on with Capital J right now? Like, where can we hear new music from you?
Just stick to my SoundCloud. SoundCloud/DJ Capital J.
I'll put the link.
And okay, I'm constantly just uploading little clips of stuff that I'm doing. I just recently had a release in December on Elm Imprint Records from the States, and the EP went up on there. I got back to some old school styles types, not really old school, but kind of old school sound flavor type thing. But yeah, I'll put up little clips of just tracks that I'm working on, because I know a lot of other producers, they won't put anything out there until it's done or released or whatever. But I'll put out like just little clips of just, it might not even evolve into a song or whatever. But yeah, just let people know that I'm still there. I remember seeing a discussion online somewhere, and somebody was talking to somebody else, and they're like, "Yeah, Capital J, I haven't heard that name in a long while. Oh, he probably doesn't spin anymore. It's been so long." And it's like, it's weird seeing those comments, because if you see like my Facebook and all that stuff, there's tons of flyers and events and all that stuff that's going on. But for certain areas that people haven't heard my name in a while, they instantly think I've fallen off. But I'm still there. I'm not going anywhere. I've been doing this shit for life, for
Good.
my whole goddamn life. So I've invested a lot of time and money, but more or less at a certain point of like everybody's life has to take over, and you just gotta take that moment to take care of your family and friends and stuff like that. But I'm still there. I'm still doing my thing.
Well, I'm glad, yeah, because we've lost some. We've lost some, not just to circumstance, but also to just saying goodbye. Some people have left, so I'm glad you're still around, and I look forward to seeing you again. Do you have any shows coming up?
This weekend.
Whereabouts?
But I can't say.
Oh.
Because they'll be the whole event. It's like a surprise type thing, so I can't speak about it now.
Okay, for our investigative people who watch this video, just do the digging on the surprise jam with no lineup yet, and fill in the blank. Oh, I know who it is. I know.
Oh, it's this weekend. Oh yeah, it's gonna be big. I'm coming back to Toronto though. I haven't been back to Toronto in a little bit. So.
I was gonna say, make sure you bring a snack. That's the best I can say. Okay, last question for you. If you could put 5 items in a vault that would encapsulate our drum and bass community or our rave culture, what would those 5 items be?
5 items that would, how do you say it?
Encapsulate our community, our culture, whether it's just the jungle community, whether it's the entire rave culture. Examples people have given are like, rave flyers, or one guy threw in the warehouse, those are examples.
Can't throw the whole warehouse in an
He threw in the whole warehouse. Okay, I was like, okay, I'll let you do that, man. Okay.
Well, yeah, they leveled that whole thing, so unless you got away with like a piece of that, you can put that in there. I would definitely have to throw in a set of turntables. That used to be one of the biggest attractions, the one thing that you would see at these events and parties and stuff. That was the main focus. Everybody would walk into a room, and depending on the direction where the turntables were, it was eyes on those from dusk till dawn. That was definitely number 1. Number 2, I'd have to say, flyers. Flyers, definitely.
Do you have one that like jumps out to you when you think of like a classic rave flyer? One that if you don't have, you wish you still had held on to after all these years? Maybe the first one you saw your name on or something?
Oh God, the first ones that I saw my name on were like black and white photocopies. Those weren't attractive at all.
But still, I get you, man. That's cool. I'm probably the same thing.
96, 95. No, I think the earliest one was like 90, 94, I think. 93 or
You know,
94.
if I could share this with you, the first flyer I was ever on professionally was with you, and it was if you remember, what did Dave call Impure Productions? Dave threw a party at Milano's.
Oh, right, right.
Dave Deciphered, R.I.P.
Decipher, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah, R.I.P.
it was you and Marcus, and it was at Milano's. It was in, I think 2000 or 2001 or 2002. Well, I was in. Hold on, let's do the math. I would have been 15. I'm 33, so it's 18 years ago. It's 2000.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, and I was so nervous because, like I say, my first tape of anything jungle was you, and then here it was. I got my first booking, and it was I was going to MC for you, and you were really nice about it, man. I got, I'm sure you don't remember it. I got so drunk, but yeah, you were really cool about it. I went by
Did
the.
it end badly for you, or what? Like,
Yeah, it didn't end well. I ended up falling on a turntable, and they had to take me away.
oh no.
Yeah, but you were really cool about it. You're like, "Don't worry, man, don't worry." I'm like, "I'm so sorry." I was like I say, I was 15, man. I wasn't even old enough to be in Milano's at the time. I was 15 years
by a
old.
long shot. Shoot.
Yeah, and if you've seen me, Jay, I don't know if you remember me. I have a baby face to begin with, so I probably looked like I was like 9 and sloshed as shit. And yeah, it didn't go well, but from there the rest is history. But
Right.
yeah, so if I could get my hands on a flyer, it would be that one, not just for the memory of that, but also the memory of Dave, because he was the
Yeah,
first
I'd
guy.
like to see that one too. Yeah, for sure.
But okay, so we've got 2 items there. We've got the turntables. We've got a flyers.
Turntables and the flyers. Yep. Oh my God, I'd have to say the old school rave fat pants.
Oh, the bell bottoms.
Yeah, not really the bell bottoms. They were just all big. They were big. Guys wore them, girls wore them. I think they were just gender neutral.
People had it was actually like a war against who had the wider ones. Like mine are 30-inch. Oh yeah, mine are 36. And it was
That
like
was in the hardcore scene though.
It was.
That was a different dress code over there.
They looked like they were floating as they walked across the ground. It was like. But no, I know what you mean. Like, and we have to shout out the clothing lines like Snug.
Snug, UFO, Fiction.
UFO, yeah.
Oh my God, we had this chat with somebody the other day. Yeah, all the names. I can't remember.
And where would you obtain it? Like, I used to go to Numb. Where would you go?
Numb was one of the places for sure.
You know, when we were talking earlier about the pinnacle and I think of all the places we once had. You know, like when you had Numb, you had Black Market, you had X Amount, you had To The Beat, you had, going to Eastern Bloc. You know, everywhere you went, there was somewhere to go. And then watching.
Yeah, the record shops. There was lots of them. Yeah, you had a lot of places you could visit.
And drop in and say hello. Just.
Yeah, definitely.
And
I remember making the rounds whenever I'd hit the town and doing my record shops and stuff. I'd hit in there, drop in the clothing stores, and I remember dropping off tapes when I'd have the mixtape out, going to each of the spots, and it'd be like over like 10, 15 shops. I could just go in and just say what up, drop some tapes in, and yeah, it was for over the years. There was a lot of places, a lot of businesses.
What was it, Ecstatic that Dominic worked at? Ecstatic?
Yeah, before HMV.
Right? Tower Records or whatever, Young and Queen. Remember? I think it was called Tower Records. Tower.
Yeah, it was Tower.
Right? And that's where I heard Happy Hardcore for my first time, actually. I remember one of the guys.
Tower?
Yeah, Tower.
That is odd.
Well, yeah, and a guy invited me to Sunshine Wayne's. That's where I went to my first, rave experience.
Right.
But
On college there, yeah.
remember college in Spadina?
Yeah.
But then from
I was
there,
only there once, I think.
that's the kind of place you only go to once.
You got that right.
Hey man, you want to come meet me at Sunshine's? Nope. I've been there once before.
Yeah, you can tell who hasn't been there because they'll say yeah right away. But anybody who's been there will be like, yeah, no, I'm okay.
You know what? Talking about those people who wore those pants, they were also the ones who wore the gloves. Remember the Liquid kids? And they'd wear those white gloves and do all the. Oh man, drugs. Anyways, okay. Going. That's 3 items we got. Let's go. We got 2 more to go. We've got it. We've got a turntable. We've got flyers, and we've got. What was the last one there, Jay?
But just say the whole gear, not just the pants.
The
I'd say
pants.
the whole gear.
Oh, okay.
All the old school gear.
Okay.
Names and all stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
Fashion.
The fashion.
If I could throw something in there, it would be, if not one or all of my mixtapes.
Good job.
CDs, mixtapes, tapes, and that was, like you said, the first thing that you heard. Everywhere that I traveled, it was always people's biggest influences or a big part of their lives or something that they tried to hang on to for as long as they could. I've had people, to this day, I still get tons of messages of people asking me can I upload one of my old mixes, something that was only available on tape way back. And they'll tell me, like, when they first got the tape, how long they had it for, and how it met its demise, where it came to an end, and then just how bitter sadness took over and stuff. So they wanted that back in their life. And I remember going to other countries, and I'd see copies of, like, the original copy that I pressed in Toronto, like either a CD or a tape or something like that I kicked out of a show or sold out of a store or something like that in, like, Europe or Asia or something like that. Like, people were shipping them over to their friends or bringing them over and leaving them there or something like that. It wasn't bootleg copies; it was like the original copies and stuff.
That's really cool.
And then there was a few times where I rolled up at a show and I saw people bootlegging my stuff out of the trunk of their car and in the parking lot and everything. So
my tape of you was a bootleg. I can tell you that because it wasn't. I specifically remember the writing on it, right?
Yeah.
And your name was spelt incorrectly. It was Jay, like Jay, and and it was like
that's the biggest bootleg there is. If they're spelling my damn name wrong, like.
Well, here's the thing. It wasn't a bootleg.
It
It wasn't even a bootleg. It wasn't somebody sold me the tape. It was hustled to me in school. Like, yo, you gotta listen to this. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it was obviously like back in the day when you would play one tape and then hit record on the other tape and you just start making.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was like that. Like some guy had just put a bunch of your tapes out around the schoolyard, and yeah, I got my hands. And honestly, where that ended up is probably in somebody's car. And I was like, guys, throw this in. And we got so stoned that I left it in that guy's car, and he probably it's kind of interesting that you bring up that you find
that story so many times for people. That's how they lost the tape. So, like, their friend took off with it, or they left it in the car, or somebody stole it out of their car, or something like that. Yeah, that's.
And then it ended up in Europe. That's what I want to learn. Like I want to follow one of those CDs and be like at point of some guy left it in a stripper's bathroom. And fucking she brought it to the club, and some guy did a line of blow off it, but then he left it for the janitor, but he really liked it and brought it home, sent it to his son in England. You know what I mean? Like, I want to follow this.
Sure, that's how the CDs wound up.
That's it. Okay, so we got 4 items, and I think these are 4 of the best items I've ever heard, to be honest. What's the 5th one you would throw in?
The 5th one will be my not necessarily my first vinyl release, but I would say probably the second, and it's the one that people won't let die. I know this one's gonna follow me to the end of the earth and stuff, and it was released in '97. I made the track in like '96. It's called New and Improved, and it's that one where I sampled the Verve Bittersweet Symphony.
Yeah.
And did a jungle remix of that, and that was pretty much like my first jungle record release. And to this day, that's like, out of all the releases that I've had, all the labels, all the titles, all that stuff, everybody's like, oh, your Bittersweet Symphony remix, and then they try to put it on YouTube and play the song and stuff.
I was gonna do it right now.
It's killing me because it won't go away. I'm like, well, I just made a new tune yesterday. I just got a new release last month, whatever. Well, how about you throw that one on? They're like, no, but this one's my favorite. And it's like, listening to yourself like way back in like '96 over and over again. You can hear just how inferior the sound was, and like my early production, it wasn't amazing. I was still evolving as a producer, still learning, and plus I was a child. So. But people won't let that damn song die. So if it's gonna last forever or whatever, I'd say throw it in the damn vault.
You're making it last even that much more. I love it.
Yeah. People aren't gonna let it die anyway. So if I don't put it in the damn vault, somebody else is gonna. So.
If you can't beat them, join it.
Right.
It's kind of ironic about that song. If I'm not mistaken, the Verve were sued for millions for ripping that song off from the Rolling Stones.
Right.
And
To this day, people are still questioning that whole thing because the Stones ripped it off from somebody else.
Did they?
And yeah, so the whole thing,
It's like a babushka doll, you know, where you open the one doll and there's another doll inside?
Yep.
That's what this is.
Oh, yeah.
You know that song that Jay made, the Verve did, but the Stones did, but you know that they ripped it off from someone else who did it? Like, none of them played the fucking violin, that's all I'm saying. Like,
you know what's funny about that, though? When it first went up on, I think it was like Napster or YouTube and all that stuff, it went up under the name of Aphrodite. So on YouTube, it's like something like a couple million views and all that stuff, and it had the name Aphrodite as the artist. And if you look at the comments, there's like 500 million people like, fucking capital J, you douche, read the fucking name, get the song right, blah, blah, blah. And everybody's reaming out the guy, like comment after comment after comment. Everybody just fucking screaming their lungs out, capital J, capital J, capital J. And then like years later, I guess the poster finally changed the name to my name and stuff. But like, it was hilarious just seeing that. Like, there's people they were rude, they were blunt about it. They thought this guy was like the worst person ever.
Junglists are an army of trolls. We have an army of people that, and I shouldn't shit on. You're not trolls, junglists. You guys are proud people, but there are some junglists that I have talked to off the record who've said stuff like, "Oh yeah, no, I just stay on that guy's wall to piss him off." You know,
those are people that are just bored, though.
That's it.
That's a different story. We've
But-
all been bored before.
Well, but no, junglists definitely are on point. I've even been corrected within my videos, which I encourage you guys to continue doing. If I say something incorrect, which I will continue to do, call me out.
Right.
It's happened a few times where I have a discussion like this, and then I get a comment down below like, "Dude, you're full of shit." Like, I didn't know. Most recently, I called out because I wasn't around for the Mach 1 party, and I thought that was at the hangar, and I had said.
Yeah.
Oh, that one was, that's where the Mach 1 party was, at that same hangar. And then somebody in the comments was like, dude, fucking Mach 1 was at the Kaboom. You're an idiot. Shut up. You know, like, he didn't say all that. But it was...
Nobody does corrections anymore. They just call you out for misinformation.
Yeah, you're fake news. You're an ass.
Yeah, that's it. Fake
But-
news.
Anyways, Jay, we said 15 to 20. It's been over 40 minutes. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk.
It's all good, man.
My
Like I said, I could go for days. I got like, you know, a giant history of all this. I think
Well,
we're coming
that-
up to like almost 30 years in the game now. So, you know, we can do like a 7-part series or whatever. And we can just go for days and, you know, I'll get it all off my chest, man.
Well, I love to hear that because that's what I was going to say is that my setup, you'll see once I release this. I don't know if you've watched any of these, but the setup's kind of primitive right now. I'm just kind of doing this from my house. In time, I want to get better lighting, better camera, better background, all that stuff. And when I do, I would love to have you back on and we can continue this chat. Would you be good with that?
Yeah, definitely, for sure, man.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to let you go. Guys, you heard him. There's going to be a secret event, so stay tuned for that. And I'll post his SoundCloud down below if you want to listen. DJ Capital J. Thank you so much. Have a good night, sir.
Definitely, man. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
All right.
Have a
Take
good
care.
night.
All right. Ciao.
Easy.
There he is, DJ Capital J. I always suck at this. I got to get used to this whole mirror image stuff, man. Anyways, yes, thank you. That is him, and really, I grew up listening to that guy, and I keep saying this to you guys, but it's awesome talking to these people, getting to hear what I kind of witnessed from the horse's mouth, if you will. Anyways, with that, as always, thanks for tuning in. We've got lots more of interviews to do and people to come. And if you're someone that I've been trying to get a hold of, please talk to me, respond to my messages, or at least pick up your phone and tell me that you don't want me to call you anymore. With that, peace out, guys.